Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Finding Fertility podcast. I'm Monica, your mentor in uncovering the hidden layers of your fertility journey. Together, we'll discover the right path for you within the 6 essential steps to creating the family of your dreams. We'll ditch the overwhelm, tune into your intuition, and build a vibrant foundation for your fertility. Whether it's through gut health, subconscious healing, or energetic alignment, you can unlock your body's natural power to get and stay pregnant. Your fertility journey is all about radical responsibility and deeply believing that your body is on your side. It's time to stay consistent, embrace trust, surrender, and create the transformation you deserve. Finding Fertility does not diagnose, prescribe, or treat any fertility issues. What we do is empower you to take control of your health by uncovering the root causes holding you back. Let's do this together. Happy Friday, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Finding Fertility. I'm your host, Monica Cox, and I'm super honored to be here with Jenna. Hello. Welcome to the show. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Hi, my name is Jenna Longoria. I'm also known as the period guru, and I'm a fertility nutritionist. The period guru, it all starts with the basics, is why, I lovingly got that nickname from clients early on. And then I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to run with this because the period is a barometer of overall health and it's where it all starts. I wish we lived in a world where we would pay attention to our menstrual cycles early on instead of when we're trying to get pregnant. And I got into this work because I have had my, issues with my hormones and periods very early on. I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, and also endometriosis. So when I was really young, I was one of those teenagers that was sent to the doctor for painful periods and put on the birth control pill at a really young age, which I'm sure many of your listeners can resonate with that. That's kind of just the paradigm we're in, is birth control pill to fix everything. And so about 14, I was put on the birth control pill, and it silenced a lot of the symptoms, but it's like painting, over mold. It looks pretty, but it's still there. Like a decade later, I decided I wanted to get off of it and embrace my hormones. And I just knew that I always felt weird on it. And when I did that, I was met with resistance from my OB, like, why would you want to do that? I was like, I want to have a period on my own. Why would you want to do that? And I was like, I don't have the answer for that right now, but I'm going to figure it out. I had horrible ovarian cysts, one of which almost cost my life. When I was on honeymoon in Thailand, I had an ovarian cyst that ruptured and took off a piece of my ovary, and I almost hemorrhaged to death. It was awful. And I am so thankful for the doctors, the surgeons who saved my life. But at the same time, when I came back and I was like, what can I do to prevent these reoccurring ovarian cysts, and being told that birth control is my only option, I knew that there was more to the story. So that's why I went back to become a nutritionist and studying women's health. And I've been ovarian cyst free. I put my PCOS into remission. I even had a healthy baby boy at 37, even when doctors told me growing up that most likely I would need to have fertility interventions to get pregnant. And that false story was really embedded in me for many, many years. And so when I started to thrive, I knew that I really wanted to share this with other people. And that's kind of how I landed into this industry. And, as I get older, I started this in my early 20s, and now I'm about to be 40. And so I'm learning those waves of postpartum and perimenopause, and really just kind of riding with those waves and enjoying learning about those transitions and how we can support our bodies best.
Yeah, exactly. Looking back, I mean, obviously, intuition, God, source, whatever you want to call it, put this wisdom inside of you to say, hey, look another way. Why do you think you listened? Because there's a lot of women that don't listen. Looking back, can you see why maybe you opened up a little bit of space to have the courage to do that?
I love that question. And it really, it takes me back to feeling young, and I didn't feel very empowered. I had these, fake hormones coursing through my body. My natural ovulatory cycle was shut down. So that in itself disconnects us from our intuition. And I just felt like something knocking inside of me. Like there was another way. I wasn't happy. I felt very apathetic. I just didn't feel like I was seeing in color. And I really credit, um, I credit God for opening that up in me, kind of, with the synchronicities that followed, because I was feeling this way. Then I had a horrible breakup and I was feeling even worse. And then one day I just happened to stumble upon this herb bar in Austin. And this woman had like medicinal teas. And I was telling her my story. And she was, like, oh, because I hadn't had my period in 6 months after getting off the birth control pill. And I was just having horrible acne and back knee. And it was just a wild ride. And so she was like, we're going to see this more and more with this chronic use of birth control. And this was like before Jolene Brighton and post birth control syndrome. I mean, this was like a long time ago. And she's like, we're going to see birth control. This is a first generation of chronic birth control users. We're going to see this rise in infertility. And I was like, tell me more. Tell me. I was just sitting there, just all for it. And she's like, drink this tea. It's going to help your cycle. And I did. And like in a month, my cycle came back. And that conversation I had with her just sparked this fire in me. And so it was just like this kind of secret sequence of events that I just embraced and allowed to, open up my eyes. And I'm so grateful it did. The butterfly effect, I guess you'll call it.
Yeah, exactly. Just following those little breadcrumbs and just tapping into what you know, even though it's not mainstream. There's no rhyme or reason. There's not scientific proof behind it. And being able to do that to yourself just radically changes the course of your life. And I think when you're in the thick of a fertility journey, it sometimes feels a little bit harder because you feel the pressure of time to have a kid. So
Mhm.
when you kind of get off of those things before like really, trying to conceive, there's a little bit more time freedom. You're more laxed about it. But the reality is it's a huge illusion and really all made up. Mostly by society, the doctors, the industry, but even yourself, that you have to have it done by this time
Mm.
because you're running out of it. And where the reality is taking that time to truly heal, then going into any medical assistance with empowerment actually gives you more time.
I agree. We're given this timeline, our biological clock. We all are told that our, fertility falls off a cliff at the age 35. And that's scary. That's a scary narrative to have in our body
Mhm.
um, versus, I mean, your story and general, you conceived naturally after trying IVF or, and your eggs, they said your egg quality was bad. And it just goes to show we can change our egg quality. We can support our mitochondria. We can support our cellular health. And I felt that really hard because my husband died when I was 34 and we were just about to start trying to have kids. And I remember waking up on my 35th birthday. It was like, 10 months after he passed away. And I was 35 and I woke up and I let that narrative just like kind of wash over me. I was like, am I ever going to have babies? And I'm a widow. And how I felt this rush to like meet someone else and do the timeline. And that fear certainly did not serve me. And I just kind of allowed it to be like, you know what? This is just an illusion. Like I'm healthy. I eat well. I'm not going to, I, I just didn't buy it. I knew that there was something more. I knew that, if we take care of ourselves and we nurture ourselves and we feed ourselves right and we're in alignment, that we can have babies into a later age. And I see that all the time. I mean, I just had a 49-year-old get pregnant in one of my clients, and that's so far the oldest client yet. And um, that was just such a beautiful thing to hear. And of course, that's more rare than we see with 49. But I mean, I see women in their 40s all the time get pregnant. And I know you do too. Sure, maybe there's some miscarriages in between and loss. And perhaps the timeline is different from the timeline they wanted. I'm kind of really grappling with that right now on my timeline because I'm experiencing secondary infertility with, first for my first child, got pregnant right away, was super straightforward, easy breezy. So, with the second one, I just assumed that was going to be how it was. And that's not what God has intended for my husband and I. So, there's this timeline where I'm like, okay, this month, let's do this. Okay, well, and I remember contacting a friend the other day, and she had her first baby at 40. And, I was like, my period had just started. And we all know how that first day of your period is when you're trying. It's just like kind of this mini death, and you're just kind of, that little letdown. And I was like, how long did it take you to conceive? And she goes, it took 2 years. And I was like, I'm just, when I wrote it out to her, I said, I'm just frustrated because I guess it's not happening on my timeline. It's happening
Yeah.
on God's timeline. It's not happening when I want it. And I was like, I feel so like, silly when I say that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, whose timeline is this? Why am I feeling so rushed? Why am I feeling so, in the grand scheme of things, if our next baby comes in 2026 or 2027, does it really matter? And of course, I could get pressured into IUI or IVF, or, and I think that a lot of reasons that people are doing that is control. They can
Mm-hmm.
control the outcome. They can control
Absolutely.
the timeline. They feel like they're being proactive, and they can even control the gender,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
genetic makeup. And so I just, my friend said, let it go and let God. And I was like, that's my mantra. Let go and let God.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. When I was 37 and holding my baby, um, I did not think for 1 second that age was going to be a big issue. Because, right, I was 27 when I started. And you are going to thank yourself for moving through what you need to move through before that first, second, third baby needs to come. Because there's always this layering system. You're like, yeah, like my life is good right now. And then it's like not. And then you're like, oh, but another baby will make it good, or a first baby. And the reality is that this is God, the universe, like whatever you want to associate with it. There's no punishment, there's no karma, there's
Mm,
no any of this. It's just your body saying, hey, I need TLC. I need you to love me in a different way. I'm giving you the time. And listen, you live in a world that is, yeah, really hard to like navigate sometimes, but you have resources.
mm.
You know, I have several aunts who didn't have kids and didn't have options and did not know about cellular health. IVF wasn't around, all those things, where now we live in this world where you can take dramatic action to make your reality come true.
Well, I do agree that we're not in alignment with nature.
Yeah.
Most of our species aren't, especially in the Western world, where we have the lowest fertility rate, birth rate. When you look at the map, it's like the Western countries have the lowest birth rate. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, there's a lot to be said. We're not in alignment with our essence. We're not in alignment with nature. We've bombarded ourselves with all of these man-made chemicals that are impacting our cellular health and our endocrine system. Um, it's kind of depressing when you think about it a little bit, but um, I believe that we have such, incredible tools at our in our reach and our grasp if we have this information in order to
Yeah.
be vibrant and to be healthy. And it's just kind of having a lot of that awareness. I mean, I know that most of your listeners probably already know this, but there are so many couples that don't understand the impact of endocrine disrupting chemicals, or polyester underwear, or the candles in your home, and all of these chemicals, non-toxic, non-stick cookware,
Hmm.
and just eliminating all of that can help so much. And then being in nature, look at all the artificial light that we're around. That is a huge source of our hormones being out of balance, is exposure to the wrong light at the wrong time, and
Hmm.
not getting the right light at the right time. And think about it. It's like when we used to wake up and get exposure to sun, and we went to bed when the sun went down because we didn't have electricity. So it's like
Hmm.
mimicking that way. And so it's almost like, why would we be surprised this infertility rate that we're seeing. Why would we be surprised? And then, like you
Yeah.
said, like all of these women are in the workforce and they're stressed out. And I see it a lot. I have clients who are just doing all the things, doing. They're high-powered women in high-powered big positions. And honestly, like sometimes I want to be like, can you take some vacation or take some time off, reduce, and the just suggesting that it's like, how could I possibly do that? How could I possibly do that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, we have to slow down sometimes in order to create that space. And, I'm just as guilty of it, the second time around. I'm a mom of a toddler now. I'm kind of starting perimenopause, and I'm working hard, and I was also working out a lot. And so these past 2 months, I've just really been like, I am just going to lighten my load
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, go on more walks in nature instead of going to the gym with artificial light and lifting weights.
Mm-hmm.
Go, just being out in sunshine as much as I can in the mornings, and doing more things that make my nervous system smile versus things out of obligation, and it's really been enjoyable just kind of slowing down and embracing more of these things and being more present with my son. Um, but yeah, I mean, I feel like that's really where we are right now. And the answer to our crisis is definitely not more IVF and more IUI.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so hard because it's been so ingrained in, like, I can actually feel the energy of some listeners just being like, what are you saying? Like, how dare you say those things? Because I don't want to say that you can't have both, but knowing what I know now is that one will suffer or both will suffer if you try. And I mean, in the sense of, it's the overdoing and the type A and the control. And you can apply that to any part of your life, whether it's working out, your job, trying to conceive, all those things. When you have that, there is zero room for that essence, that intuition, that surrender, the natural flow of life. And unfortunately, we've been sold this, kind of like, well, you can have both, just keep pushing your body. Now we have these drugs, now we have these medications. Um, but the truth is that you will suffer at the end in one way or another. Maybe looking back, I'm able to see like energy and, the truth behind what's being said. And there was this really amazing fertility doctor on the internet, and a post came by, and I think she already has 2 kids, maybe. And I could see her story was that she had this deep desire to have another kid, but really because she didn't embrace being a mom the first time around, because she was in med
Mhm.
school, she was building a career, she was doing these things. And the reality is that there are going to be times in your life that you are going to have to choose. And what is your priority going to be? And there's no judgment, there's no right answer. But as women who have been conditioned to be so type A and overdrive and go, 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 that is contributing to the fertility issues. So releasing that and giving that up for a time being, and yeah, it sucks to say, but it is on the woman, right?
It
Yes,
is.
the man
Well, it's
has to.
because we're not given the space in our society to just be nurturers and be women. And it all started, honestly, it all started with the golden handcuffs and the empty promise of birth control.
Mhm,
They're like, oh, you can go through university and you can without getting pregnant, and you can be in the workforce without getting pregnant, and choose when you want to get pregnant, and do and enter the workforce. And wow, this is empowerment. But at what cost? It's that shutting off our hormones,
mhm,
disconnecting. I'm sorry, but if you're not ovulating, you are not in connection with nature and
mhm,
your intuition and the source. It cuts it off.
mhm.
There's a little voice in there, like, I had a little tiny voice, but it's not there. And then, then we have this now also too with inflation in the world and everything. It's harder to live off of one salary from
Yep,
one spouse. So the other spouse
absolutely.
has to work. And then we all know with mothers, right, that work, they come home to the second job and they're the ones who have more hours generally. I know not all couples are like that, and I don't want to be stereotypical, but generally, yes, it is. The mothers are the ones who remember everything. We always have that to-do list in our head, right? Oh, clean the water bottles for school. Oh, wash that, blah, blah, blah. I got the grocery list, whatever. And, and here we are, we're stressed out, we're strung out, we're given this promise that we can do it all. I don't want that promise that I can do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And, with my first, I was in a unique situation because I was a single mom. So I had to get back to work sooner,
Mm-hmm.
and I needed to provide. And I had a lot of fear that I wasn't going to be able to provide if I didn't get back right at it. And now that my son is like in a big boy bed and not in a high chair anymore, I'm just like, oh my gosh, where did the time go? And I'm like, with the second one, I am not working for like 6 months. I don't want to, or even long, I want to, and I know not everybody has that opportunity. Like I get it. I was a single mom with my first one. I did not have that
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. Um, but I really feel like I missed out on so much connection and so much time because I didn't live in a society where I could just, be given that space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it just goes by. And so I feel like, a lot of women, I think that it was Michelle Williams just came out with a quote, that actor, is that her name? Actress Michelle Williams. What's her
Oh, I'm
name?
the wrong person to ask.
Okay.
I like
She's
to
a
watch
famous
TV.
actress.
Yeah.
And but I saw this quote. I don't watch that much TV either, but I saw this quote on Instagram. She was like, people who say you can do it all and work and have kids, you can't. You can only really be present for one at a time. And, I think it's a beautiful thing with balance when women are in the workforce. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be in the workforce and all of us should be stay-at-home moms. It's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This isn't some pro-patriarchy talk, but I just feel like, we should be also given the opportunity to maybe have more time with our children in the first few years because it goes by so fast. It's not a sacrifice, it's a privilege.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so if we kind of just were allowed us to slow down a little bit more and step back. And that's why you hear so many people like, I went on vacation and I got pregnant. I finally took that vacation and unplugged and went to Europe for a month and I got pregnant. We
Mm-hmm.
weren't even trying, or, just kind of, or we stopped trying in general. We just stopped and then it happened.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
taking that stress and that timeline off of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, to wrap this part of this conversation up, it's really about getting radically honest and where you can slow down and where those narratives and that made up story that you've created, where can you soften that? Where can you really start cultivating the life of your dreams, which can include work and being more present with your kids and all these things and not sticking to these rigid, well, this is what society, I'm the breadwinner, because that's a lot of women I get are now the breadwinners. And so they feel like they have no choice. It's like, well, have you given your husband or partner the opportunity to step up?
Mhm.
Well, okay, or can you downsize? I think a lot of people that intimidates them because they've built this dream up. Okay, well, we're the Joneses and we have the white picket fence. Okay, but what's suffering because of it?
I love where you're going with that. Like, do we both need to work so hard because we
Mhm.
need to, or because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses? It
Yeah.
really is so true. It's like that always needing more mentality, that rat race that we have in America.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can promise you, your kid is going to want more of you, not more of the stuff you can provide. And so it's really just looking at your life right now and not saying, well, when I have the kid, I will then X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
Because as we both know, it doesn't always work out that way, right? You think, and it goes back into the subconscious mind now that you consciously have this vision for yourself, but the reality is that you can't just bypass what's really running the show behind you. And we have both felt that in our fertility journeys, in our motherhood, in our entrepreneurship, where we have to be radically honest and be like, okay, that's not really working.
And it's kind of like that fake it till you make it. Be grateful for something before it's even, arrived. Like it's already here. Principle with like pregnancy and fertility. So Eat like you would when you're pregnant. A good fertility diet in general is eating the foods that would nourish pregnancy. Exercising more, creating space, slowing down for a pregnancy. Open up your schedule a little bit, because I see like almost as if that baby is already here. Because then that also sends a message out that, hey, I have space for you. I have time for you. I am prioritizing you. I'm doing all of the things to welcome you in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when people get caught up of like, well, my drunk cousin or the crackhead, God bless her soul, like those people didn't make space and time, then like, why do I have to work so hard at doing that? What's your response to that kind
That
of
one's so
inquiry?
hard. Yeah, because I think that they're a lot more relaxed in general too. If you think the drunk cousin might be, doesn't have as many responsibilities, and even though they're eating McDonald's every day and things like that. But yeah, I just feel like for some of us, because of our journey, everyone's different. All of us are different. All of us have different karmic pathways, and we're here for different reasons, to learn different life lessons, and you just can't compare yourself to your drunk cousin. I do think, letting go and control when the things happen to you when you're not trying so hard, generally, or when things come to you. But, look at it as a way where it's a lesson in patience, or it's a lesson in humility, or it's a lesson in surrender, that you needed on this pathway. And this is your opportunity to step up and say, hey, challenge accepted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I truly believe that there's just this level of souls coming in that just need, I don't want to say better. Better's not the best word, but they don't want to deal with the BS. Maybe your first or second child were willing to like cope with some, little niggly things. But I know for me in my journey, if I just pushed, well, first of all, I would have never got pregnant with my own eggs if I didn't fix my health. Like that's how bad my health was. But even like continuing in my journey, the health implications that were at a higher risk because I was so inflamed for my children, we have to remember you're growing a human being in these times. And so maybe taking the pressure off of you and just looking as like, okay, it's the baby's timeline or God's timeline, or, wherever you want to put that, it's taking that pressure and just saying, hey, all I have to do is show up for myself every day, 1%, whether that's diet, lifestyle, mindset, energy work. If I just continue to focus on loving life now, your fertility is innate. It will naturally come. All right, y'all, we are going to end it right there. I know the anticipation, but I promise if you come back, next week episode is just as good, if not even better. So have a beautiful weekend, enjoy your week, and we'll see you next Friday on another episode of Finding Fertility. Thank you once again for tuning in and becoming the conscious mama you were born to be. Remember, I wasn't some magical unicorn who stumbled into fertility success. I stayed consistent, I put in the work, and I made it happen. And guess what? You can too. And I have something for my loyal podcast listeners, but here's the key. This is only for women who are feeling burnt out, frustrated, and stuck in the cycle of endless research. And you're at a point where you are screaming, I have tried everything. Why isn't this working? This only works for women who are ready to take a radical responsibility for their journey and start listening to their body's innate wisdom. Because deep down, you can heal and achieve your ultimate goal. If that's not you yet, that's okay. Not everyone is ready yet to show up with ease, deeply connect to their energy, unlock subconscious patterns, and listen to their body's ability to come into full coherence. But for those who are ready, I'm offering something I only do with my paying clients, and this is a fertility breakthrough session.
This is the first thing I do. Even before I start really deeply working with someone in a coaching package, it's a deep dive session where we look at exactly where you are right now, what's keeping you stuck, and the easy shifts that can change everything. But fair warning, these sessions are very limited and go fast. So if you're interested in checking out my superpower for uncovering exactly what's been overlooked, jump into one of these free calls. They're deep, they're intuitive, and they're game-changing. The only way you can access this is if you actually personally message me. You can do it on your favorite platform, IG, TikTok, or at my personal email, monica@findingfertility.co. Not .com, because they wanted $3,000 for the M, with just one word. And that word is dreams. Obviously, DREAMS. And I'll make sure you get that link right away. Remember, this transformation happens when you stay committed to yourself. Trust your body, follow your intuition, make it possible. The links that you need are down below. And if you are still here and you absolutely love this podcast, please take some time and leave me a review and help other women like you find this podcast to get the support they need. Help a sister out. Leave a review today.